Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, class 8. I hope all of you are fine by the grace of Allah Almighty and enjoying good health. Today we are going to read out the next text of unit number 3, Mysteries, and it is an interesting poem. Its title is The Listeners. This title is given to the poem because an unknown traveler came to a house and knocked at the door again and again, but the people living in the house did not answer, they just listened. That's why this poem is given the title The Listeners. This poem is written by a very famous poet, Walter de la Mare. He was born in 1873 and died in 1956. He was a renowned writer who was honored by being buried in St. Paul's Cathedral in London. His favorite themes were the hidden mysteries within the English society, especially the scenes of countryside, the memories of childhood, and the dreams of the people. This This poem was published in 1912 as the title for his second collection of the poetry. The poem tells us the story of an unnamed traveler approaching an abandoned house seemingly inhabited by the ghosts or spirits. So, in this way, this poem presents an unsolved mystery and has intrigued the readers for nearly a century. Now, come towards reading. Is there anybody there? Said the traveler, knocking on the moonlit door. Moonlit means lighted by the moonlight, and his horse in the silence champed. Champed means grazed the grasses of the forest ferny floor. Ferny is actually plants having the leaves like ferns, and a bird flew up out of the turret. Turret is a small tower on the top of a large building above the traveller's head, and he smote upon the door again and a second time. Smote means knocked loudly. Is there anybody there? He said, but no one descended mean replied to the traveller, or descended mean came down from the stairs. No head from the leaf fringed sill. Sill is actually threshold. Leaned over and looked into his grey eyes, where he stood perplexed and still. Perplexed mean confused, and still mean calm and quiet. But only a host of phantom. Phantom are the spirits, listeners, that dwell. Dwell mean reside, live in the lone house, then stood listening in the quiet of the moonlight. In this poem, or in these verses, the poet tells us that on a moonlight, a traveler comes on his horse and knocks at the door of a house. He demands that the door must be opened, but he receives no response to his call. There is complete silence within the house, and a bird flies out of the window over his head. The traveler knocks again, but again he met with a silence. He stands all alone with horse, which busies itself grazing the grass. His calls are heard by the spirits which remain or reside in the house, inside the house, but they remain silent and motionless. To that voice from the world of men stood thronging the faint moonbeams on the dark stair. Thronging actually means rush or flock. That goes down to the empty hall, hearkening in air stirred and shaken by the lonely traveller's call, and he felt in his heart, their strangeness, their stillness answering his cry, while his horse moved, cropping the dark turf. Turf is the grass, neath the starred and leafy sky. For he suddenly smote on the door even louder and lifted his head. Tell them I came and no one answered, that I kept my word, he said. Never the least stir made the listeners, though every word he spoke fell echoing through the shadowiness of the still house. From the one man left awake, they heard his foot upon the stirrup, and the sound of iron on stone, and how the silence surged. Surged mean rush softly backward when the plunging hoofs were gone. Plunging mean falling steeply. So, in these verses, the poet tells us that gradually the traveler senses the strange atmosphere and he seems to come to the realization that no one will open the door. He had probably come here to fulfill the promise that he must have made to an inmate of the house in past. So he declares loudly, "Tell them I can," and no one answered. That I kept my words. The man finally mounts the horse and he went away. So now come towards conclusion. The point has the theme of the supernatural and mystery. The traveler does not fully accept the existence of spirits in the house. It shows futility and narrow-mindedness of the modern age rationality. Modern age rationality. The poet attempts to convey through the poem that there is a parallel world of spirits which is invisible to human eyes, but we must accept them. Now, come towards the meaning. Moonlit mean lighted by the moon, charmed mean chewing, funny mean resembles ferns, especially in leaf. Third, a small tower on the top of a large house. Moth, strike loudly. Sill, a threshold of a door. Phantom spirits. Perplexed mean confused, puzzled. Dwell mean reside, live. Thronging rush, flock. Tough grass, stir mix up. Plunging, falling steeply. And surge mean rush. So, what is your homework? You are supposed to write down the summary of the poem The Listener by the Walter de la Mare in your own words on your literature notebook. If you have any query, then do ask me in Classroom app. I hope you have understood the poem well. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.